Good morning, class. So, in today's botany lecture, we are going to see some special kind of fossil plants. So, before going to some these special fossil plant, we will going to see what are the fossil plants and what are the major characteristic of the plant and how they are useful to study in present research analysis. So now, if we are going to see what is the fossil plant, so a plant fossil is any preserved part of a plant that has long since the died. So basically, these are not the plant which are present in today's world. So these are the plant which was present on the earth, but in today's scenario or in today's world, they are died for a long time ago. So having some pieces which have been remained in any kind of like sometime it can be in a form of picture, sometime they can be as a form of impression, and sometime the whole plant just can be submerged inside a mud or being in the rock formation site or beneath the rock or sometime inside the sea. So, in any way, in any matter, if a plant from the past, you can see it now in the present time. So, basically, the plant you are calling them is called a fossil plant. So, such fossil may be prehistoric impression that are many millions of years old. So if we are seeing them, they are not just like the days old or something which is 50 years old or 70 years old. Mostly we are talking about fossil that has to be minimum time that has to be like 500 years old or 200-year old, because if we see a very short time duration or to make them a fossil plant, that cannot be good because sometimes the adaptation quality can be inbuilt into them for some other kind of plant. So that's why whenever we are talking about the plant, they had to be like hundreds of years old or bit of the charcoal that are only a few hundred-year old. So sometimes that can be a few hundred olds, but minimum I told you like it should be like 300, 400 or 500 years. Prehistoric plants are various group of plants that lived before recorded history. So like before means 3500 BC, before Christ. So after that we have a slight record from the very ancient time, but in today's world, in today's science, you have the record of all the plants which are rely on the earth. So now what we have to see here, that what are the special kind of fossil plants which are present, or you can say which can be used to study the phenological and physiological studies among the taxa. So the first plant which we are going to see here, that is a plant is called Rhinia. Age, if we talk about the age, the Rhinia, when was Rhinia present? So Rhinia was in the Middle Devonian time period, the very old, and locality of the Rhinia, where Rhinia fossil has been found, they will be found in the chart bed in Scotland. So this Scotland is was the destination of Rhinia because we found the fossil in the Rhinia. We found the fossil of Rhinia inside the Scotland. So these fossil plant actually they can be present. Sometime we got a fossil which was not originally formed, or you can say it was not originally originated at that places, but sometimes they can be migrated. So these migration can be happen because of tectonic plate movements also. So these fossil can be delocated from one place to another place, but most of the time, certain conditions they are present at the place we got them. In the 1913 and 1917, Mackey, Gibson, and Nanks they got the fossil plant for their research. Basically, some of the scientists, some of the people who might be working on the fossil studies. So, workers who work on the fossil study, they got these kind of things, and they study on them for their detailing process. Now, if we see The identifying feature of the rhina. So if we going to see a TS of the rhina, so the TS of the rhina stem, basically the part we got from the fossil study, that was a stem. So the stem surface is covered by the cuticularized epidermis with compactly arranged cells. So the first thing, the epidermis, which is always we study whenever we talk about the internal structure, the first outer structure we talk about, that is the epidermis. So epidermis here, that is made up of the compactly arranged cells, means there was no gap between the cells of epidermis, and they were heavily cuticularized, or you can say their presence of cuticle on the epidermis, that was heavy cuticle layers was present on the epidermis. Conspicuous stomata are present. If we see in the stomata type, they were the conspicuous type of stomata. They were present on the surface, or you can say on the epidermis of rhino. Next to the epidermis, or after the epidermis, there is a massive cortical zone formed by compactly arranged parenchyma cell. So we know that after cortex, what we got after epidermis, what we got the cortex. So cortex of the rhina, that was made up of same parenchyma cell as the epidermis was made up. There is no endodermis or pericycle. So in that structure, what we got of rhina, there was no endodermis or pericycle feature was there. As you all know, endodermis is the last layer of the cortex, and it differentiate the cortex to their stellate region. Now the pericycle, that is the region where vascular bundle start up. This region is also not very clear inside the stem, or you can say inside the anatomical portion of rhina. At the center, now the center portion where is their stellate region lies. So that at the center there is a cylinder hydrocentric protostele with a small central xylem core. So what they found, that the stalactite, the type of steel, that was a protostele. So the protostele was found in the center, and how the steel inner portion was, that the central core was xylem core. This is surrounded by 4 to 5 layers of elongated cell with oblique end and which present the phloem, although C plates have not been observed. So if we see the more features about the vascular bundle, so they will be surrounded by 4 to 5 layers. There have been 4 to 5 layers of elongated cells with oblique ends. So oblique ends, I think you know the oblique ends, elongated means a little long cells with having some tapering ends type, which represent the phloem, and they also represent the phloem, although sieve plates have not been observed. So sieve tube was there, but there was no sieve plate has been shown. So we cannot identify the sieve tube was association with sieve plate was present or not. LS through the sporangium of rhina. Now, this was all about the stem portion of the rhina. Now we are going to see how the sporangia look like. How the sporangia of rhina look like. Sporangia are oval. Okay, so sporangia shape is oval or cylindrical structure with pointed end. So they are the cylindrical in appearance, and their ends, they are quite pointed. The sporangium wall is thick and multi-layered, with the outer cell thick-walled and inner thinner cell representative pattern. Basically, in most of the reproductive organs, they are developed in the way that outer layers are always thick in shape, and inner layer they are always thin in shape. So the outer layer which is present, they can help that particular thing to be protected, and the inner layer, that is always mostly that is a soft layer, and their function, major function of these soft layer is for providing the nutrition. Mostly in most of the reproductive organs and sporangia, sporophylls formation and pteridophyte even. So the tapetum is always responsible in wherever the tapetum is present. Their major function always is to give nutrition to the developing embryo, or even if it is present in the time of sporogenesis, then they are going to give nutrition to the developing spore. So basically, they are responsible for nourishment. The whole interior is filled with spore tetrad or free spores. So if we can see the type of the spore, there are two type of the spores which are present here. One is a spore that is tetrad. Tetrad means in group of four spores together, or they can be the free spores. Free spores, like they do not have any, any colony or pair or group. They are just present isolatedly, individual units. This is the structure of Rhinia stem and Alice of the Rhinia. So you can easily see the epidermis. This is the outermost structure here. Just after the epidermis, this whole parenchymatous cortex is present, and you can easily see that there is no difference in between the cell of epidermis and the outer cortex. They all are made up of the parenchymatous cell. That's why there is no difference in their internal structure. And the innermost, that are inner cortex, that is slightly varying from the outer cortex. How you can see the cells are little scattered as comparison to the outer cortex. Outer cortex even don't have any kind of cellular difference in between them. They are very compactly present, but they have little intercellular space in between. We know the difference, we know the distance between two cells is known as intercellular space. So they have a little intercellular space in between them when we are talking about the inner cortex. And also you can see they have this stomatobophnic. Stomatas are present, stomata were present, and centrally placed xylem core with having normal protostele. So if we're talking about the stele of rhinia, how was the stele inside the rhinia? That was the protostele, and in protostele also the core was filled by the xylem cells. Only seed tubes were present, no seed plate was present inside the phloem. Xylem have xylem parenchyma, simple cells was there. So no further, identification like the endodermis, pericycle, they were not there as the studies have been done on rhino. So this was a stem, and you can easily see the very simple structure of the sporangium. Outer wall, that in a little dark, that is outer wall. This is hard, and this is the inner wall, that is the tapetum, which basically provide these inner tetras or spores to nutrition or nourishing them. So they can, most of them are present isolatedly, but some of them can be present in a tetrad form. But mostly spores shown in this picture, they are, you can say, solely present, independently present. They are not dependent on, or you cannot say that they have to present in a pair. They are just individually present. Second plant, if we are talking about here, that is Lepidodendron. So the Lepidodendron is, like you can see that they are having several leaf bases on their outer structure. Leaf bases, they are also having leaf traces inside them. Massive outer cortex, middle cortex, where basically different, there are differentiation in between the cortex also. Outer cortex different, middle cortex different. So we will be going to see what kind of theoretical aspect of this lepidodendron. So age, if we see of lepidodendron, that is Upper Devonian or Carboniferous coal fossil. So this can be the tissue by which we can know the age or of a particular specimen or the tissue by doing the carbon dating. Now the locality, that was Great Britain. So in the Europe, in the Great Britain, we got it. So basically, British plant it is, and identifying features is by the stem. LS of a stem we got, not the TS of a stem, as we got in the case of Rhinia, we got a TS. But here, what we got, here we just got a LS. Following tissue zones are noticed in the LS of dendrogram. So the outermost surface of the stem trunk is covered by the persistent leaf bases. So outer surface, or you can say mostly, actually this fossil, what they got here, that was showing the secondary growth, because you can see in the diagram this is the periderm, okay, and periderm only form when the secondary growth happens inside the plant. So basically, that plant is from the secondary growth, and that's why having these persistent leaf bases on their outer surface, their epidermis is just that lost because of this periderm formation after, or you can say on the top of the outer cortex. That's why there was no epidermis to see, because of having these persistent leaf bases and massive periderm zone which lies beneath the leaf bases. So just under the leaf bases there was a massive periderm. Periderm layer continue internally with the cortical layer, which was differentiated into three distinct zones. So after this periderm, as a result of the secondary growth, they were made from secondary tissue, mostly secondary phloem. So after this, when the periderm over, or after the periderm, they will be having the cortex, and the cortex was differentiated into the three zones: outer cortex, middle cortex, and inner cortex. Outer cortex is parenchymatous, simple. Parenchymatous cell made up. Middle cortex is much ruptured and formed by delicate parenchymatous cells. So basically, in the middle cortex, most of the cell has been ruptured, broken by some pressure or anything. So most of the cell was ruptured, and we just whenever we are studying fossil, most of the thing just goes on absorption. Like we got the result, like we got some ruptured cells here, parenchymatous cells here. But what we can do, we can imagine, just is they was really soft to rupture, or some kind of pressure just applied to that particular portion to be ruptured. So these things can be happen. We cannot be very accurate while you are studying a fossil, because you don't know that exactly what you are saying is true at that time or not. But this is all based on the mixture of evidence plus assumption. So the inner cortex is also parenchymatous and surrounded by a secretory zone. So after this inner cortex, that is also parenchymatous. So all three were the parenchymatous: outer, middle, and inner, and surrounded by a secretory zone. But how they differentiated? Outer one was pretty tough, as the scientists told. Middle one was pretty delicate, but made up of parenchyma. Inner one that has been covered by the secretory zone. So in this manner, they are going to have these three distinct zones. There are leaf traces in both middle and inner cortex. So if we see the leaf traces interference, they will be in the most rarely in the middle, but also in the inner cortex. The innermost core of the stem axis is steel, and it is somewhat narrower in comparison to the massive cortex. The innermost core of the stem axis, that is always steel, means center we possess with the vascular bundle. And if we see what kind of steel is here, so it is very narrower in comparison to their massive cortex. Cortex is so massive, you can see how massive it is, that we can differentiate the cortex into three particular zones. But there's steel portion that is not very massive or highly advanced or developed. The steel just was protosteel with exarch and polyarc xylem. So exarch and polyarc xylem. So exarch means always towards the outside. That is rare, because mostly inside the stem. The vascular bundle present in the case of endark incubation. Only in the roots they form as exarch, but here the xylem, or you can say the steel, is present in exact condition, and polyarc xylem will be the multiple in conditions. Metaxylem is at the center with a number of protoxylem point on the periphery, and metaxylem is present towards the center, and protoxylem was present towards the periphery. So this was the difference between the metaxylem and protoxylem here. So that also this difference you can see it in this diagram is not pretty clear. But the very center we are having metaxylem, and towards the periphery we got it the protoxylem. Now the third plant we have here, calamites. So you can see the calamites. We have a little pretty diagram with having all the entities present. The case of the stem we have here. Okay, that was LS in the second plant case, and here we again have a TS. TS always give us more information as compared to the LS. Now age, upper dominant to lower Carboniferous age, locality Europe. Identifying features. Okay, like we are going to see several other plants like Glossopharia. It is lower Gondwana, India. Balsam Surya. That was, that was also from Europe in some countries. But most of the plant, or even there, here I just take some special plant. But normally the plant or the fossil that was we got for study, most of them come from European country. And even think why the European countries have more fossils. Actually, what happened in the European countries, the temperature is so high, and you very well know that why we use fridge, why we use fridge or refrigerator inside our homes to keep things cool or stop their decaying process. So they won't decay much, so that's why we use the fridge. And here the locality of being European country, this is the same thing, like they do not go to very decaying process is very slow, or freezer fracture or anything that we use, like we put something for not destroying or to be intact as it was in living phase, we also store them inside the ice also, because being in that much low temperature actually stop all the metabolic activities of that particular thing and remain it like it was at their living time. Identifying features. Now we will going to see what and how the TS of catamites look like. So there is a thin periderm layer at the outermost surface of a stem. So thin periderm layer, and if we are talking about the thin periderm layer, so surely they also have this secondary growth inside them. There is a distinct cortical zones just beneath the periderm, and after having the periderm, they are also have the this cortical zone. And the cortex is differentiated into outer thick walled and inner thin walled zone. And if we are talking about their cortex, they are having the outer thick wall and inner thin walled zones. At the innermost zone, there is a delicate pith of which broken down in mature stem to form the pith cavity. So at the innermost zone, there is a delicate pith. In the last, after first we are having the this dark zone, and after this dark zone, we are having this very light zone of the cortex, and after this light zone, at the innermost place, we are having a delicate pith, which is broken down in mature stem to form pith cavity. But when it got to into the mature stem, this pith cavity was broken. The pith is surrounded by an endark steel. Okay, and endark steel basically surrounded this pith, and the protoxylem strands have disintegrate to form carinal canals. So the this whole endark steel and the protoxylem strands, they are present there just to make it more, to give it like the support for not getting converted into the cavity. So this entire Sipno steel, basically, they have been showed that they do not possess any kind of simple steel. Instead of having a simple steel, they have the complicated one. They have the advanced one that is called Sipno steel. There is a massive secondary xylem tissue which lies in between cortex and primary xylem strands. There is a massive secondary xylem tissue also, which basically lies in between the cortex and primary vascular strand. So secondary xylem tissue, if we are talking about here, so definitely they possess the secondary growth inside them, because formation of secondary xylem and formation of this secondary phloem, that is a result of the secondary growth. So it is formed by the tracheates and ray cells. There is no annual ring in it. Mostly this whole formation of the vascular bundle, that is formed by the tracheates and ray cell. There was two cell which has been found in the vascular tissue, that was the tracheates and ray cell. There was no annual ring in it. So basically, when cambium do its activity, when they do the secondary growth, they make the annual rings. This is a part of their functioning. But in this plant, there was no annual ring found. Glossopetrus, the fourth plant. You can see we just got a whole mount of leaf of Glossopetrus. This is what we found of this plant. Age Parmocarboniferous, very old. Lower Gondwana, India. Indian region we got this leaf. Leaves are simple. So impression of fossil of Glossopteris leaf, basically what we found. So leaves are simple, entire sessile, too short petiolate and linear, lanceolate to ovate with a very strong midrib from which numerous small fine veins passes out to the margin, forming a network. So we will go one by one to each term here. Simple. Simple means they do not have any complexity inside them, like some additional feature. They are just as a leaf should be. Entire. Portion is totally entire. Everything is present there. Whatever inside a leaf should be present there. Sessile. Sessile means they directly attached on the surface of the stem. They do not need any kind of peduncle position. If they are have sessile to short petiole, means sometimes they do not have anything to attach with, or sometimes maybe they had a very short petiole to attach on the stem. That's why we call them the short to petiole. Linear, straight. Okay, this you can see they are very linear. Linear C, you can see lanceolate to ovate. Lanceolate to ovate means their shape. Ovate why we are calling, because it is a little big from the middle, and they are having the tapering ends, so that's why we call them the lancet or ovate, and with a very strong midrib. And you can see a very strong midrib that clearly show differentiation between two parts, and also these fine scales in the filling portion. So this is a complete structure of a simple glossopteris leaf. Midrib of the leaf is prominent. Okay, midrib is very prominent, particularly at the base of the leaf. You can see the base of the leaf; it is very particular, the clear, hard, and rough. So this is how the glossopteris work. Now the last plant we are talking about here, that is the Williamsonia. So Williamsonia is a plant which is a extinct genus. Actually, it is not even a plant. This was all about the genus belonging to the Banetales. So Banetales was an order that was very old order, and they are having some specific kind of the plant. Order of the seed plant which bore a resemblance of Saccade. So if we see the Banetales resemblance, so they mostly the Banetales have a characteristic which are present in the Cycade. And Cycade also, if you know that this is also a very ancient origin. Cycades plant is not new origin. They have been a very ancient history. They are old plant to be counted and present in today's world. Fossilized specimens of Wilsonia have been discovered worldwide, and it is not like Wilsonia has to be just present at a particular space and founded at particular place. They were present the worldwide most, and many people encounter their presence at many places. Williamsonia possessed a sturdy stem and had multiple fern-like leaves. So if we see their structure, they have this sturdy stem and multiple fern-like leaves. As you already seen the cycles many times. So if you have a brief knowledge about how a cycus plant look like, then you will be going to understand how the fern leaves look like of a Williamsonia. So the plant did not live in groups. So plant, if we see that, like if we got a particular fossil, we got it in a individual unit. So we can, on the basis of that, we can analyze that they didn't present inside the group. They just present individually in a single soul unit. The stamen, if we talk about here, so the stamen of Williamsonia curved inward and upward. So stamens, they can be curved. In curving, they have a curve. It curve can be towards the inner side or it can be towards the outer side. That depend on the species to species, because the Williamsonia we talking about, that is a genus, and genus is a collection of a species, not a species. So that's why inside this Williamsonia genus there have many species which can be have the stamen, which can curve towards the inward condition and some can curve towards the outwards. Williamsonia produced ovulate sporophyll up to 4 inches, or you can say 10 centimeter in length. So they produce ovulate sporophyll. What are the sporophyll? First, we have to see this. Actually, sporophyll are the leaf which can possess the fertile part of the plant. So actually, you can see the fertile leaves. So like microphylus, we call it small leaf. Megaphylus, we call the big leaf. And the sporophyll, if we are talking about sporophyll, we are talking about the fertile leaves. So they produce the fertile leaves, which is ovulate in shape, like up to length was the sporophyll was 10 centimeter or 4 inches. Its stalk seeds would have grown from a central receptacle, and the entire cone of Balansuria would have been surrounded by protective bracts. So basically, its stalk seed would have grown from a central receptacle. When we are going to see how and what plates their seed have been grown, they were have been grown at their central receptacle, the central portion, the central axis on which these sporophyll has been grown. That is the part at those condition, or you can say at that part, the whole seed will going to be produced or attached, and the entire cone of Wilsonia will have been surrounded by protective bracts. So basically, two type of the leaves are present. One leaf that are the fertile leaves. They are called sporophylls. Secondly, they are the sterile leaf, but they do the function of protection inside the plants. When a plant goes in the reproductive phase, and at that time they are very sensitive. So because of their sensitivity and reproductive phase, there has to be something which should protect them. So at that time, we got or plant got these kind of special structure called bracts, which basically present inside the plant to protect the plant, and which are often the only part of the plant to undergo fossilization. And this is the kind of plant, or this is a part of the Wilsonia, which often the part which go under the fossilization bracts. The cone of Wilsonia, if we see, they were monosporangiate. So monosporangiate means one kind of the sporangia will be formed in there, or you can say the one type of gamete. It can be either the male gamete or it can be either the female gamete. It cannot be bisporangia. Means two sporangia cannot be present at a place. There is a single sporangia that has been present in the place. That's why we are calling them the monosporangia. They were cup shaped. If we see the like the rhinia, they have some convex shaped sporangia, but their cone that is look like the cup shape. Cup shape means their surface will be broad. Okay, their surface will be broad as comparison to cyclus cone, and could be up to 15 centimeter or 5.9 in a diameter. So you can see their cervical view, or you can see their diameter is huge. It's like the 5.15 centimeter or 5.9 in diameter. So as many as 25 to 50 ovules could be present in each cone. So how many ovules can be present in each cone? 25 to 50 ovules has to be present inside the each cone. So this is also very important, like how they survive all the things and make it to the full fossilization. So we could study it in today's time. The development of the ovule appears to be similar that of the Psychorodia. So as the developmental features, if we see that how the ovules are going to be developed and converting it to the seed, that is exactly almost same like inside happened in the Psychorodia. So this was all about the fossil plants, the special fossil plants. So now I think you have enough knowledge about what kind of fossil plants are, or what special kind of fossil plants are there. But the question is why we are studying this? Why we have to know about fossil plants? Why how they will come to use us, or what knowledge we got when we study about the fossilization? Actually, when we study about the fossilization, this major thing that we had to know is about like how phylogeny and evolution take place. This is a major reference to study the evolutionary studies. Evolutionary studies from the past time to the present time, how the evolution take place, what was the weather condition at that time, how the climate was. So these are the things which we got when we study the fossil plant. Also we can sometimes we can also these plant make us to understand how harsh condition can be the extinction of a particular kind of species. So that's why we can make our environment as much as healthy as we can do, because sometimes the things which we are doing reflect us on us. So that's why this fossil plant have a history, they have a past, they have a history which relates to our future. So that's why their past can influence our present, and if we work in relatively to our past, then we will going to do something better in the future. So that's why these plants, they are very important, and we can even study in research area. We can study the about the evolution, the phylogeny pattern inside the plant taxonomy, and also inside the studying some special kind of features. So this is all about the fossilization and special points. Still, if you have problem, you can go through these references. They will going to help you much, because they have a detailing about the paleobotany, as the paleobotany deal with the fossil studies of botany, or you can say it is a branch of the botany which deal with the fossil plants. So I think uh, that's complete for about the fossil plants. Still, you guys have any problem, you can ask me.